Alright, so you're looking at a 2011 Ford Fusion. Wasn't really going to make this video, but I saw a lot of weird information floating around out there on YouTube world about the electronic rack on these. This has, it's 2011, has an electronic rack on it. Now Ford did recall these. I don't remember exactly what years. I think it was 2011 to 14 or 15, something like that. They had a connector problem on it. This one has already been recalled and fixed, and now it's got several codes for the module. I can't communicate. Well, I can read the codes off of the module, the steering module, but there's no power assist at all. We got power down to it, and anyway, so I'm just going to go over real quick what I did to take this rack out. Like I said, I've seen people taking the exhaust off and a few other kind of weird things. I don't know why they did that. So anyway, you can get this out pretty quickly. You're going to have to drop the frame out. I didn't drop it all the way out. It's basically, well, anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I'll just kind of go over everything real quick. And if you do decide to do this on your own, you will have to either program it yourself through a J2534 pass-through or get it done at a Ford dealership. I'm going to go ahead and program this one through my Autel Maxi Flash. I'll kind of go over that, I guess, towards the end. And some scan tools you can download, like the launch. I'm pretty sure you can download the module information before you remove the rack, and then once you put the new rack in, re-upload the information. Now I did do that on my launch, but I don't know. We'll see how it works. I'm not sure. I haven't tried that with the launch yet. Usually I go in through the J2534 pass and go on Motorcraft's website and reprogram it that way. You can get a 2-day pass or 2-day license for $50 or somewhere around there, and reprogram the module. So anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. First thing you'll want to do, obviously, is get it up in the air, and then we'll go inside the car and take the steering knuckle off from the steering column. I'll go over that real quick. I'm not going to go step by step on this one because I already got it out, and I really wasn't going to make a video, but like I said, I saw some weird information out there floating around, and I mean, everybody can do whatever they want to do, but I'll just show you how I did it, and got through it pretty quickly without taking the exhaust off or anything. So anyway, I'll go in the car. We'll go in the car real quick. I'll show you that, and then we will go underneath it, and I'll show you that, and then we'll program it. And here's the actual rack itself already out of the car. I'm actually waiting for the part right now. You know, this isn't too hard to clear once you drop the frame down, but once you get to this part, this motor is quite a bit bigger, and you have to do a little bit more finagling to get it out. But anyway, I'll show you. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so we'll go inside the car next, check that out. Alright, the first thing you want to do before you start anything is take a bungee cord, wrap it around your steering wheel, and then I take it and put it underneath the seat brace, go along the bottom there. You don't want that wheel freewheeling because you can break the clock spring inside there. So that's the first thing you want to do is just take a bungee cord and wrap it around the steering wheel like that, and then go down to the bottom of the seat where the rail's at and just hook it to that, and that keeps that wheel from spinning. And because you don't want to break that clock spring and then have another job after you get done with putting the rack in. So anyway, we'll go under here now, and you're going to go right behind this pedal here where that hole's at. Here's your steering shaft right here. It's a 10mm bolt that holds this into the rack. Now obviously the rack's already out, so but usually it would be like right here. Take the 10mm bolt that goes into this hole right here out, and then this rack or this shaft will slide up and down to release from the rack. Once that slides up, now you do have, sorry about that, the light always falls. You will have this on there. It's a plastic shield. Just take that off. It just pops out. There's two little plastic retaining nuts. You can turn them off by hand normally. And then you'll kind of lift this up here, and then you'll see this in there. Take your bolt out, release the steering shaft, and then just pry this out. I did it by hand. You should be able to do it by hand. It's not very tight. But that goes, the rack actually comes up through this hole right here. and this is the seal to keep the moisture and all that stuff out. So this will come out. So then you're done inside after you get that done. Here's the these lights, man. Here's the 10mm bolt that goes to the steering shaft. No, probably didn't need to see that, but anyway, let's go underneath the car and I'll show you what I did. Alright, so here we are under the car. When you first get under the car, you're not going to be able to see all this. You're going to have a big plastic splash shield that goes all the way around this. Those are all 10mm bolts. Splash shield's back there laying on the floor. Those are all 10mm bolts. You'll take all those out, and then that splash shield can be moved off to the side. Once you get that, next thing I did was take this motor mount off. There's a motor mount that goes from the frame to the transmission here. It's 15mm on both sides. Just zip that off. It's like a dog bone. It's actually right there. So you'll zip that off. And then next thing I did is, and you can see here's the exhaust. The engine and the transmission are bolted to the top. I mean, you do have the transmission mount. This is the transmission mount right here. It keeps it from rocking. But the rest of it's all bolted to the top, so there's no reason to drop the exhaust. I don't know why guys are doing that on YouTube. If somebody knows, maybe explain it to me. Maybe a different engine. This is the 4-cylinder, 2-wheel drive. It's not the all-wheel drive. But anyway, I've seen guys taking this exhaust down. I don't know why they're doing that. So anyway, that's so the dog bone comes out, and then you're going to have this brace right here. This huge brace that goes alongside of the frame. Connects to both sides of the frame. You got 4 15mm bolts, and then you got the 2 21mm nuts that hook to the frame. And there's the big nuts right here. So there's only 4 nuts holding this whole entire frame into the car, besides your suspension. And you got the 2 back there that I just showed you, and then there's 1 up here. You go through this hole right here. There's 1 on each side, a 21mm, and you can see the stud is still kind of sticking out a little bit right there. So this frame's not all the way down, but it's pretty far down. In the back, it's off of the studs. So once you get all those out, go ahead and take your 17 mil and knock your tie rods off from the spindle, and then go ahead and drop the frame down as far as you can. The frame's not going to go anywhere. It's hooked to your struts and your steering knuckle and all that, so it really can't fall out on you. Just take a couple jacks if you're worried about it, and put them on each side, and you should be fine. Now once you get it down about pretty far, you have 3 15mm bolts holding the rack to the frame. There's 2 on the driver's side that are up on the top, and then there's 1 right here on the passenger side, 15mm. You get those out and the rack is loose. You'll have 3 connectors hooked to your rack. You got the 2 going to your wiring harness. On this, you just pull this red thing back as far as you can, and then press in. Press in right here. You'll kind of hear it snap, and then you can pull this out. This one's pretty tight. It's pretty heavy gauge wire, and it's a pretty serious connector, so it will be on there pretty well. This one, you just press down on the bottom here, and it'll release. You'll kind of hear it, and then it'll release. And then you have one that goes on the rack itself that kind of stays on the rack. You don't really have to unplug that. I can show you that in a minute, but anyway, and that's all you have. Besides the steering knuckle, your 3 connectors basically, and your 3 bolts, and the rack should come out. Now, I'll take you to the side here and show you how I got it out. Alright, now you can see the 2 studs coming out of the body here. That's what holds the frame on with the nuts. They're basically out of the holes here. Not by much, but they are a little bit. And the reason why that motor doesn't really want to come through this hole right here, and this is the way I took it out, was here on the driver's side. And it comes out this way. Now the first part where the steering gear is at comes out pretty easy once you get it down far enough. But then once you get the motor to here, you have to kind of finagle. It doesn't just slide right out. And I had to use a board and a long pry bar to kind of give me more leverage to push this down temporarily to get it out. And then once you get it out, you can kind of let off. But like I said, the frame's not going to go anywhere. It's held up by your suspension, and it's just easier. I wouldn't take the frame completely out, especially if you're in your home garage or a do-it-yourselfer. You can get it out with just taking all the bolts out of it and working the frame down. there's no reason to drop this whole thing down and go through all that mess. And like I said, I have 2 jacks, one on each end. They're not even touching the frame right now, but I have them there ready to go in case something weird would happen, or which really can't, or you know, just to put it back up there. So that's pretty much it for taking it out. Now you'll take your let's go over to the rack real quick. All right, if you're going to reuse your tie rods, which you know, most people do, this one actually looks pretty new or newer. You can either measure. A lot of people measure from the end here where the threads are to the nut. I've counted the turns off. That's just what I've always done throughout my career. It's always served me well. It's never been a problem. And normally it's you know, right on once I put it back on. But you can do whatever you want to do. You can count the turns off, or you can measure how far your nut is here, or the end of your tie rod to the end of the threads, or however you want to do it. I wouldn't measure off of this boot in case the boot moves, you know, or it's not in the perfect place. Normally you measure off the end of the threads here. So once you get those out, we'll put them on the new rack and then slide that in, and then I'll bolt it back up, and then you're pretty much good to go. Like I said, the only snafu on these, it is an electronic rack, and it has the electronic module on it, and it does have to be programmed. I've heard people that put them in and they were fine, but I would still program it and make sure everything's good on it. So I'll go over that once I get the new rack and get it back up in there, and then you can make the decision if you want to try that. If you have it, some kind of, you either have to have a VCM device or a J2534 device to reprogram it, or possibly upload to your scan tool if you have a good scan tool, and then download it back onto the new module once you get it in. But anyway, I'll go over that once I get it back, get the new rack. I'm still waiting for it. It's going to be about another hour before it gets here, and then I'll put it in, and then we'll see what's going on with the programming and check it out. So in this car, it's set on the dashboard, steering assist failure or something like that. It comes up. I mean, you'll know it anyway because you won't have power steering. It'll be very, you know, very hard to steer. So the only thing I would do is check your connectors really good. Make sure you're getting power down to it and all that good stuff, because you don't want to. These racks are pretty expensive, like $700 somewhere around there. So you don't want to change that and then find out later it's a connector or a wiring problem. And like I said, if you have not had your car in for the recall, I would look into that also, because Ford does have a recall on these Fusions certain years for a I think it's a wiring connector problem or something like that. But like I said, this one was already recalled. So this one has a bad rack in it, and it is pretty common on these. These seem to fail. It does seem like these fail quite often. This car's only got 100,000 on it, and it's already just turned 100,000, and it's already failed. So I don't know. I didn't make it, and I don't break it, so it is what it is. So we'll get this new one in. And all right, so I got the new rack slid in there. You got the one 15mm bolt on the passenger side, and then there's two 15mm on the driver's side. You can get to the one on the outside here, and the other one towards the back. I got the 4 bolts holding the frame back in. They're just kind of roughly started, and you can see that this back frame brace is back in. It's not all the way in, but you got two 15mm, one here and one on the side, and then the big 21 in the middle. 21, same on this side, 21, 215. So I'm going to go ahead and run those up. Like I said, these jacks weren't even holding that frame up before when I was having it hanging down. Now that I got it, put it back up, all it is put a jack on this side and a jack on that side, and just crank it back up, and it goes back into place, no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten all those 21s and those 4 15mm for the back, and then we'll put this brace in, and the shield will be almost done under here. It's pretty straightforward. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and hit those with the impact, and then we'll pick it back up real quick. Alright, so once you get the front frame bolted in, like I said, you got 2 in the front here, and then you got the 2 in the back, plus this brace. So that's all back in. So now we're just going to put this motor mount back in. You just slide it in like it came out, and go ahead. Alright, so if you do it this way, you're pretty much done under here. There's no ball joints or anything else to mess with. All we got left now is the big plastic shield. I'm going to go ahead and put that up. It's just a bunch of 10mm bolts. And then I'll just finish up inside the car, and then we'll program it, and we should be good. Alright, so I lied earlier. I was going to go through my pass-through and go through Motorcraft and program this, but the launch actually took care of it for me. If you want to know, if you have a launch or a really good scan tool, go into the power steering control module. And how you do this is before you take the rack out, go into special function and go into programmable module mounting and follow the directions there, and then it'll tell you to install the new module. Go ahead and turn your scan, set it off to the side, install it, and then follow the directions again, and it will write the old module stuff onto the new module. So you can see here, if you go in the module information, it's already written on there, so there's no need for me to go on to Motorcraft and write it. That is another option. If you have a J2534 pass-through, you can always write it through that with your laptop if you have the right connection. Of course, if you are doing that, you probably know how to do that, and don't need to have me show you. But I've only had this launch about 6 months. I did use the Autel all the time, and I've never tried doing that with the launch, but it actually did it. It downloaded the module information off the old module and put it on the new module. So that's nice that you don't have to go through and buy a temporary license through Ford and all that. So this thing is good to go. I started up, and it's got real nice steering, real easy to turn. Before we had nothing, it was really hard to turn. So we had the power assist failure message up there on the dash. So anyway, that's it for this video. The reason why I made this video, I just saw a lot of weird videos online talking about going through a lot of extra steps to do this rack. This rack's really not that bad. You do have to drop the frame down, but there's not a whole lot attached to the frame. I mean, the main thing attached to your frame besides the rack is your lower control arms and stuff like that. And if you just take all the bolts out, you can drop it down far enough to get the rack out. The back side was completely out, and the front was almost all the way out. But it does, if you get enough leverage on it, you can pull it down enough to pull it out. So really, I mean, it's not as bad as some people make it seem on YouTube or whatever. But if you have any comments or questions, leave them down below. I definitely would program your rack if you get one. Don't just throw it in there and hope that it works. Even if you had to tow it to a Ford dealer and have them program it, it would still be cheaper if you did this yourself than take it to a shop and have them go through the whole thing with it. Even on the rack itself, the warning said do not drive before programming. So I wouldn't take a chance. Even if it worked for some miracle reason, I would still download the old information and put it on there, or have someone program it. So that's just my 2 cents on it. Thanks for watching. Hope to catch you on the next one. As always, have a good day, and God bless.